Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a hair loss related one, and I'm going to be sharing with you 10 tips for both looking after your wig and also wearing them, all to do with things like brushing, washing, how to actually care for your wig, and also in the application that may help you out whether you're starting to wear wigs or you've been wearing them for a long time and are just interested. So I'm just going to jump straight in with tip number 1, which is all going to be to do with brushing. So when I talk about brushing your hair, there's a few little tips surrounding this. So whether you have a human hair wig or a synthetic, when you're brushing your wig, always start from the bottom and work your way up. This will just prevent pulling on any large knots that may actually pull out the hair strands and cause shedding. Also, try to avoid brushing your hair when the actual unit is wet. When the unit gets wet and all the hair and the knots are wet, it actually increases the chances of them coming loose. So if you can allow your hair to air dry, try to prevent using like a hairdryer, and if you do need to use quite a low heat, allow it to air dry and then brush it afterwards. You're going to basically minimise the amount of damage that you'll be causing to your unit. So tip number 2 is all to do with washing your wig. So I am going to put out a whole video on how I wash both my synthetic and human hair wigs, just a step-by-step process, but a few little tips to start with. You can get specific shampoo and conditioners for your wig type. For example, these ones I have here I use on my synthetic wigs. I will pop a picture on the screen as well. So these are the ones I use for my synthetics, and for my human hair wigs, I'll just pop those out the way, I use this brand here. So I actually have different shampoos and conditioners and treatments for the different types of wig. Also, where possible, try to not use any like sulfates in your shampoos if you are just, or conditioners, etc. If you are just using like shop bought ones, which you can do, I just prefer to use specific wig related ones just because I feel like it might help the longevity of my units. So another tip with that is when you are washing your unit, try not to like scrub it, just go nice and gently and kind of like massage the product in and allow it to sit for a little bit, especially with the conditioner. So when I condition my units, both human and synthetic, I actually leave the conditioner just to sit up to an hour, just because I feel like I want it to have like almost a treatment and like a hair mask. And as well with the conditioner, don't put the conditioner right on the very top where the actual knots are. Similar to when the knots get wet, if you're putting conditioner on, it can loosen them, and then afterwards if you're handling it, drying it, or just in general, it can cause them to like unwind and come out and shed. So I actually leave a couple of inches from the very like wherever the hair's attached upwards before I add the conditioner, basically, so I never put conditioner onto the actual like wig cap or where the knots are actually attached. So tip number 3 is to do with your wig and whether it is heat safe. So for human hair wigs, generally you're okay to use heat on it in the same way you would with human hair. Obviously, the less you do, the better, because it's going to cause less damage. But particularly with synthetic, this one applies to. Not all synthetic wigs are actually heat safe. And the ones that are, quite often will come with a recommendation of how much heat you can apply. So for example, your synthetic unit might say heat safe up to 120 degrees. Definitely take note of that, because I've actually damaged a couple of synthetic wigs when I've just not really taken notice or gone straight in with a high heat, and it almost like burns the hair and turns it like into a wire texture, and it's damage that you can't undo. Basically, you can condition it as much as you like, but once the hair is damaged in that way, it is fully damaged, and the only thing you can do is cut it out, and then depending on where that damage is, that could cause a problem. So definitely have a look for your units and check if you can use heat things on them, like tongs or curling ones, and to what actual temperature, and maybe just make a note somewhere just so you don't forget it, because otherwise some of the damage can be irreversible. So tip number 4 is, if you're able to, invest in a mannequin head, or similar to what I've got behind me, a head-shaped stand to store your wigs. This will basically, so I use mine to store my wigs, although there's not one on there at the moment, and also when I'm drying my wigs after washing, I put them onto the head, and basically it's meant to help keep their shape, rather than leaving them to dry flat, which I have done in the past, but I think it is preferable and better if you're able to dry your units on a mannequin head, just to keep the general shape, and also it's handy for styling too. You can pin it in and use it as an actual styling tool, so definitely invest in some sort of like head-shaped storage for your wigs. You can get even like hangers now that go in your wardrobe that have like a head-shaped angle on it as such. You can get them online, so have a little look. It will definitely help the longevity of your wigs and keeping their shape. So my next tip is to do with actually removing product from your wig and also removing the unit itself, like uninstalling it. So what I mean by this is quite often when I wear my wigs, I add some like wig glue to the front of my hair, and also I use some gel. I use the Got To Be one, it's down there, I can't bother to pick it up. And I use that to just seal down the very front of my wig just to make it look a little bit more natural, and then add a little bit of foundation over the top, etc. But when you actually remove that wig, it can leave a lot of product. So I don't actually wash my wigs very often. When I was wearing them every day, I'd wash them once a week, but now I rarely wash them because I don't really wear my wigs as much anymore. It's more for occasions, or if I want to dress up for something, or I just feel like wearing one. But quite often I get a lot of like white residue at the front where I've taken it off, where like the gel or the glue has dried. So a good way to get rid of this without having to completely wash your wig and go through the whole process is using some rubbing alcohol. So the one that I use is isopropyl. You can get it online quite easily. I've got mine in a little spray bottle. You can just spritz onto the front of it, and either using a soft towel or a Q-tip or like a cotton bud, depending on how much you've got, or if it's just a small patch, just literally gently like brush it off. So that's basically what I do to remove the product. And also, if you're looking to actually remove your wig and you've used a lot of product and you're worried about damaging the lace, you can do the same thing. Just be cautious when you're using the rubbing alcohol, that you don't use too much because it can dry out your units. So that's just something to be aware of, but it is a really quick and easy way of getting your unit to lift from your head safely without causing damage. So the next tip is all to do with where to actually place your wig on your head. So when I first started wearing wigs, this took me quite a while to like figure out, and I do think it's one of those things that you will just get familiar with over time. So the first time I put a wig on, I didn't know where felt right on my head to make it look natural. Whereas the more I'm wearing wigs now, I just position it, flip my head back, and it's pretty much in the right place, and that's just come with over time. But if you are just starting out, try to, as best as you can, whether you have hair or not, follow where your natural hairline would have been. And if you're not sure of that, if like me you don't have hair anymore and you haven't for a while, or if you've never had hair, I was given the tip by somebody that recently installed a hair replacement system for me, that it's roughly 4 fingers worth from your like eyebrow onto your head, and it's the top of the forefinger that's basically where your hairline should be roughly. So that's just a quick guide if you're not sure where to place it onto your head, but just keep rearranging it until you find something that feels comfortable, and you will get used to it over time. So the next wig is all to do with the brush types that you are using on your units. So generally, normal brushes as such that aren't specifically for certain types of wig can be a little bit abrasive to the wig itself. So the types of brushes that I use on mine, I have a really large wide tooth comb that I use for like detangling and just quick touch-ups when I'm out and about. I also have, I'll pick it up for you and show you, one of these here. So it's kind of like a wire bristle, not too hard, but it's it's not the softest thing, but these are meant to be great, particularly for synthetics, for detangling, just kind of like tidying up and styling also. I think they're just a little bit less abrasive to your wig itself. But if you have a little look online, I might actually do a video about this too, about the exact type of brushes that are suitable for different types of wigs, especially ones that, are straight or curly, especially with synthetics, it could be quite easy to like pull curls out. But if you've got a synthetic one that's curly, just use your fingers to like detangle rather than something that's quite abrasive, otherwise you could, again, pull out knots. So that's what it's about really, just having a look at what type of wig you have, and then just have a little look online at what sort of brush would be most suitable to that. For me, I just generally use a mixture of the wide tooth combs on my human and my synthetic ones, and for the synthetic I use this one all the time. So that's a little bit about brushes. So the next one is to do with wig caps. So if you have hair and you're wearing wigs and you're finding that it's not laying flat or it's slightly raised, get yourself a wig cap. And it will basically just help keep your wig flush onto your head rather than having like a little bit of a lump or it raising up. But wig caps are great anyway. I wear wig caps all the time, even though I don't have hair, because I find wigs to be a little bit uncomfortable. And quite often when you buy a wig, they'll come with wig caps, but if not, they are really cheap online. I've also heard that bamboo wig caps are great for comfort if you're quite an irritable person. I personally haven't tried them, but it's something to try if you're, having trouble with finding comfort in wigs. But yeah, I wear wig caps all the time. Sometimes I don't in my wigs, but most of the time I do, especially with my hats with hair. I always wear a wig cap underneath it. The beanies are pretty comfortable, but again, I'm just a very irritable person. I just like to feel comfortable. So yeah, if you haven't already, get yourself a wig cap, and I think you'll find a lot of uses for it. So the next tip is how to remove shine from your synthetic wig. So this is something that's really common, especially if you're looking to just play around with wigs and you order one that, you know, is not the most expensive. You don't need to spend a lot on wigs to get some really nice ones. You know, there's a lot of ways a lot of things you can do to make them look more natural, etc. But I've found that when I've bought cheap synthetic wigs just off like Amazon or eBay, just to try out different styles and colours out of interest, they are really shiny. So I've looked up a couple of ways to get rid of it, and the main one that I find to work is using dry shampoo. Literally just spray it all over, brush it through, particularly on like the root section. It can give it a little bit of volume also, kind of like not rough it up a little bit, but, you know, spruce it up a bit, because quite often the synthetic wigs that are quite cheap just kind of lay very flat on your head, so it gives them a little bit of volume. But if you haven't got any dry shampoo, or that's not working for you, I personally haven't tried it, but I've also heard that baby powder can be really good for that also. Just use a very small amount or a large makeup brush and just dust it over, brush it through, and that can also help to prevent shine on your wigs, both synthetic and human really, but primarily I use that for synthetics. So we are on now to our final tip. And this is one that I actually found on Instagram by the Happy Wig Life. I will link her page down below if you're interested in checking her out. And basically it was a tip all about if you're wearing a wig and there's a little part of it that you're finding quite uncomfortable. Say at the very front here, one of the tabs is like digging into your head quite often, or a little bit that's a little bit rougher that's from the manufacturing or the making process that you can't really cut out because, you know, it's part of the unit and you're going to end up damaging it. Basically, the tip that she gave, I'll just put this brush down, is to get hold of some of this or similar. So the one I use is Walker's. I use this to apply my units just to keep them nice and secure. It lasts a really long time, although it's not cheap, but it's the only thing I really like to use, so I do get hold of it. Cut a small amount of it and cover it over the part that's annoying you. What you do then is peel back the other side, which is a paper, and that will be extremely sticky because that's the part that normally sticks onto your head. But if you already have hair, or if you have hair underneath, you're going to want to get rid of that stickiness. Or when you put it on your head, you know, your annoying part could be here, like at the front. It's likely there's going to be hairs with knots attached that you don't want to pull out. So basically what you do is you need to make sure you remove that stick. So you can repeatedly press it, but another way to basically get rid of it quite quickly and reliably is by using a small amount of Vaseline. So just make sure there is absolutely no stick left on it if you are going to be using that tip onto hair that you have that's existing underneath, because you don't want to cause any further damage. Obviously, if you haven't got any hair like me, then it's just a bit of extra stick. But yeah, that's basically that tip. So make sure you check out her page if you're interested in seeing what it's all about and reading the full description of that tip and seeing some photos and things. So those were my 10 tips. I will be putting out some videos as well, just on the whole washing process and a little bit more detail about brushes and how I go about that, etc. So if you had any other tips that I've missed out, please do let me know down below. I think I'll be putting out another video like this soon because I have got so many wig tips. I just didn't want this to be super long. And yeah, thank you for watching. Please do like and subscribe if you like this sort of content, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.